We are now going to begin with questions. Please keep in mind that the rules are new to everyone, and though the rule is fairly comprehensive, there may be questions that we are hearing for the first time and would need to consider carefully and thoughtfully before answering you. You can expect that those questions will be answered in the future through guidance or Q&A documents that will be posted on PAIRS. As questions are coming in, we will move ahead to the next slide that lists helpful resources, including a direct link to the online Smart Snacks calculator we showed earlier. We also have a link to USDA's page that is all about Smart Snacks. And then we also have the Alliance for a Healthier Generation and SNA's collaboration work to launch a series of tools to make Smart Snacks a success in your school district. This site includes a list of known products that comply with the new competitive food standards.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. I think that we're ready to move on to questions. I just wanted to remind you that the webinar is scheduled until 3 o'clock, so we will address all of the questions that we can up until that point. And if there are remaining questions, those will be recorded and included in the Q&A that's posted following this webinar. So let's get started. The first question is one that was posted early in the webinar. I think you may have addressed it later in the webinar, but we'll clarify it anyway. And the question is, do these requirements include events that occur after hours, such as during sporting events?
No, they do not. It has to be a food or beverage sold during the school day on the school campus. So events that would be on the weekends or at an off-campus venue would not have to comply with Smart Snack standards.
Okay, then we have a question that pertains to career centers. What about career center culinary classes that might make cookies or other items to sell before, during, or after lunch?
A memo did just come out regarding this, and we're still waiting for more information from USDA about how we're supposed to handle that. That's a good question, and we'll let you know when we hear. It should be posted on PAIRS this week.
Okay, I see we still have some questions about whether or not the slides are available, and I just wanted to remind you the slides are available in the file share box in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. The slides are there in handout format, and as well as there's another handout of the flow charts that were presented during the webinar. Okay, next question. When will guidance from PDE be available to schools?
On fundraising?
That was the extent of the question.
We would need more details to be able to answer that question, exactly what they're referring to.
Okay, if the person that asked that wants to clarify, we'll try to get to that question later. Are there rules for field trips?
If that doesn't include food being sold to the student on the school campus during the school day, then no would be the answer.
Okay, then we have a few questions related to the Smart Snack resource. What method of calculation is the Smart Snack resource using? Isn't the second method better to get more items approved? And this, I believe, is in regards to the VAT calculation.
We entered in actually the exact example that we have in the slideshow, and the calculator does know to do the second calculation and make sure that it passes. So it shows that our example item passed for, I forget what that was with the total fat, but it didn't pass under the first method. So yes, the calculator should give the correct answer to that.
Okay, and then must we show the two calculations or just the one that qualifies the product as allowable?
Just the one that qualifies the product. You only do the second if the first one doesn't qualify your product.
Okay, then a specific question about a food item. Could a 1 ounce sunflower seed portion, meat alternate, mixed with a 1/4 cup diced cranberries, which is a 1/2 cup of fruit, be considered an entree?
we're going to check on that. USDA is coming out with another Q&A soon, and I know they've been asked some questions like that, so we will get back to you on that specifically.
Can you define small amount of sugar in canned vegetables?
We'll check on that one too, because nothing we have seen has noted an exact amount, but we will check and put that into the Q&As for you.
Okay, and then we had a question in the chat that stirred a little bit of chatter. It sounds like a great idea if someone is up for doing this. Is there an app for your smartphone that just scans the nutrition facts label and calculates if it meets the standards?
That would be great. Not yet.
But Kim's hot on it.
Okay, will the calculator allow you to save the information for an item that doesn't meet the standards?
I don't believe that the calculator lets you actually save anything. You need to print it. So I imagine you can print the screen that says that it's not compliant as well.
Okay, then another good idea. How about a national database for schools with lists of snacks that meet the criteria?
On the Alliance for a Healthier Generations website, they do have a link for products that, and it is actually in a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, so you could take a look at that. And that's just products that they're aware of that meet the requirements.
They can get to that information by clicking the last link on the resources slide.
Okay, that Alliance for Healthier Generations link?
Correct.
Okay. Then we had a question about a memo number, Kathleen, that you referenced, and I don't know if you're going to need a minute to go look this up and we could go to the next question, but they're looking for you to repeat the memo number that you referred to, and I believe this was when you were discussing fundraisers.
Yes, and this memo is on PAIRS under download forms, and there's a new section titled Smart Snacks in School. The memo is SP23-2014. It's dated March 5th, 2014, and it's a Q&A related to the Smart Snacks interim final rule.
Okay, thank you. If one doesn't make a good faith effort regarding sales of items during school breakfast or school lunch, what is the outcome during a review?
I'm sorry, Eileen, can you repeat that question?
Sure. If one doesn't make a good faith effort regarding sales of items during school breakfast or school lunch, what is the outcome during a review?
At this point in time, there will be or could be a finding. There isn't money associated with it currently, but there is an integrity rule that is coming out shortly that we have a feeling will be covering that question a little more in depth.
Okay. Please, were you finished? Okay. Please review what sold means. Does this include food that is distributed? In other words, a fundraiser sells soft pretzels that will be delivered to students during the school day.
If there's an exchange of currency, then that would be considered sold.
Okay. What is the number for the Q&A memo?
I think that's the one we just did, and that's SP23-2014. And we realized they might have been asking about PDE's memo that has the Survey Monkey. That is also under the Smart Snacks heading, we believe. It's definitely on the message board.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
And it did go out by email, so if anyone's having trouble finding it, you can contact one of us. We have our information on the last slide.
Okay. A fundraiser item is sold through a form and circulated during the school day, but the food item is not actually picked up until after school hours. Is this allowed?
Things that are sold but that are meant to be consumed afterward, like Cookie dough, for example, is a common one. Those are not, those are okay because they are not being, sold to students and consumed at school. So those do not have to comply with Smart Snacks.
Okay. If pizza is sold every day as part of lunch, is it exempt?
Yes.
Okay, that was easy. What if we give the students a cookie or treat for holidays or special events with the purchase of a school lunch?
That would be part of the reimbursable meal, so that would be separate from the Smart Snacks standards. So that would be included with the reimbursable meal.
Okay. If the school day is defined as midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day, how can fundraisers be sold during the school day?
Schools can opt to do non-food fundraisers, so pencils, T-shirts, flowers.
Also, if the food items that are, you can sell food for fundraisers during the school day as long as they meet the Smart Snack standards. So non-food items are fine, and also food items that meet the standards would be fine as well.
Okay. Can food items like a chicken patty be offered a la carte independent of roll or condiments? Can the same be done for breads or rolls?
The rules do require that the item, that the calculations be done based on the item as it would be served to the student. So, any condiments and, it's hard to imagine a chicken patty that you would eat by itself, usually would have that on the roll. So I would think you would need to do that all together as an item.
Okay, and then back to the issue of field trips. What if the field trip takes along Orange Drink and sells extra drinks to the students during their off-site field trip? Does the Orange Drink need to meet the requirements for K through 8?
Yeah, if it's not taking place on the school campus, then it would not have to meet the requirements.
Okay, so is a 12-ounce or 16-ounce diet soda now permissible on a la carte lines during lunch?
In high school, yes.
Okay, can we sell 16-ounce coffee at the high school?
Yes, you would have to take into account cream or sugar.
Okay. Is there a defined date for a final rule? Is there a defined time the interim rule will be in effect?
No, there's no defined time.
Okay. For a food service management company, is there any way other than pairs that a management company can get these forms that keep being referenced as post-it to pairs because food service management companies cannot access pairs?
Unfortunately, no, but they should be in touch with the contact person that is responsible for pairs or listed as the primary contact, and they can provide that information because they, in turn, must be aware of what is required for the food service management company to be following.
Okay, if the sale takes place not during the school day, but the distribution is during the school day, does that item need to meet the standards?
Would you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. If the sale takes place not during the school day, but the distribution is during the school day, does that item need to meet the standards?
I think we need an example on that. It's hard to know exactly what kind of item we're talking about.
Okay, I believe that was guest 17. If you want to provide an example, we can maybe be able to readdress that question. Next question. When you're talking about the general standard and specific nutrient standards, if a Smart Snack has fruit as the first ingredient and meets the specific nutrient standard, Does the snack item have to be 51% whole grain too?
No. It already met one general standard. It doesn't need to meet two.
Okay. Can fundraiser food or beverage items which meet the standards be sold during the school day in competition with school meals in the food service area during meal service?
If the items meet the Smart Snack standards, they can be, unless the school itself or the district has some kind of policy in their wellness policy restricting it, but there's no federal restriction on that.
If a fundraiser happens during the school day, must the standards either be met or would that have to be an exempt fundraiser?
If whatever is being sold meets the standards, then it can occur during the school day. What was the second part of the question?
If the fundraiser happens during the school day, must the standards either be met or would that have to be an exempt?
If schools are permitted to have exempt fundraisers, the school could decide if that would be one of theirs that they would allow under their permitted amount of exempt fundraisers, for it to occur on a school campus during the school day. Outside of exempt fundraisers, the products or whatever was being sold would have to meet the standards.
Okay, if a fundraiser sale for soft pretzels takes place ahead of time and not during the school day, then can the distribution be done during the school day, for instance, during lunch? I believe this is the example from the previous or earlier question.
Right.
It may have to do with where was the transaction for monies, where had that occurred, and also is it going to be eaten? I'm thinking this might refer to like what elementary schools do, where they sell and the pickup intent is to take home, as opposed to high school where they're eating something they're selling. So I think you'd have to look at the intent of that.
Elaine, I also wanted to suggest if people have very specific questions like that, you could email either me or Kathleen. Our emails are at the end of on the last slide, and we will look into those very specific situations for you.
Then we have a comment that I believe refers back to an earlier response, and it's really what happened to the competitive role in competition with the National School Lunch Program.
Well, the foods of minimal nutritional value are still required or in place, but until July. So we're not sure how to respond to that as being a comment.
Okay. If we have teachers pre-order an item from an adult menu, does this have to meet the regulations?
If that food is not being sold to a student, it's being sold to a teacher, so it does not need to meet Smart Snack standards.
Okay, and for clarification, the soft pretzel example was asking regarding the distribution of them for consumption during lunch.
We still don't know when these things were being purchased, when the transaction took place. Yeah, so I really would recommend that person give us a call because it's hard to know all the details of that specific situation.
Okay, and the slide that is up now shows your email addresses if they'd like to contact you that way. Are we now saying diet soda is healthy?
We don't necessarily say that, but we are relaying what is permitted now, or what will be permitted with the implementation of the Smart Snacks regulation.
Okay. Can a selection of bread or rolls not be offered as a grain element a la carte if if it is allowed, then cannot a single item be offered as a meat alternate a la carte item?
So, individual bread or rolls could be sold a la carte if they meet all the standards. I'm a little confused. We're a little confused by the wording.
Okay, maybe Dave, if you'd like to clarify that, and we have time, we can come back and address that. For now, we'll go on to the next question. Candy and snack sales sold not during lunch or breakfast through an activity club be allowed? I think there's a word missing. Candy and snack sales sold not during lunch or breakfast through an activity club be allowed?
If those are items that do not meet the Smart Snack standards, those could only be sold as an exempt fundraiser, if exempt fundraisers are granted.
Okay, we don't have another question right now, but it looks like people are still typing. Oh, here we go. To simplify, why isn't a single, back to the chicken patty, permitted to be sold a la carte, independent of rolls or condiments?
It kind of comes down to the item as served. USDA uses that terminology over and over, how the item is packaged or served. Is a student really going to eat a chicken patty by itself? Is that typically how that item is served to our students? No, it's not. So,
and it would be the same as taking a hamburger concept. Would the hamburger be eaten alone, or would you just sell a hamburger roll? Probably not.
Okay, back to the diet soda. Would the diet soda have to be caffeine-free?
Soda is allowed only in the high schools, and there are no caffeine restrictions in high school.
Okay, how will you get the fundraising information to superintendents and principals? I know they'll ask for exemptions.
This is Vonda, so I've been quiet the whole time, but I'll go ahead and answer this question. The survey that is out right now, we're establishing a baseline of what fundraisers currently take place in schools and how many times that do not meet the Smart Snack standards. Once PDE establishes that policy, and that policy will be made with the Division of Food and Nutrition all the way up through Acting Secretary of Education. Once that policy is established, it will be communicated to superintendents and principals with communication from the Secretary of Education being part of that communication process.
Okay, for 10th through 12th graders, would 20-ounce G2 be too large?
Yes. G2 Gatorade is actually a bit higher in calories, so it can't be served in portions greater than 12 ounces.
Okay, and this isn't formed in the form of a question, but maybe you just want to clarify. There's a statement, soda is allowed in middle schools too.
It is not.
Okay.
Only allowed in high schools.
Okay, if we have a grill area and offer a cheeseburger daily and students can also purchase that cheeseburger a la carte, is it exempt?
If the cheeseburger is offered as part of the reimbursable meal every day, then it can be served, it would fall under the exempt category for Smart Snacks, yes.
Okay, would I have to apply for an exemption for a community service fundraiser? Money is donated to a nonprofit organization.
There won't be individual school. Exceptions, it'll be a statewide, either a specific number of exemptions will be granted per school building. And that'll just be across the board statewide. So if we say no exempt fundraisers will be granted, then no exempt fundraisers will be granted. That will be the policy statewide. If we establish a number that will be allowed to be exempted every year, then you'll be responsible. You won't contact us every time. You know, if we say there's 3 exemptions allowed, you won't contact us every time to get permission for one of those 3. You'll be responsible for maintaining documentation of those 3 and ensuring you don't go over. Again, I'm just using 3 as an example. That's not what has been decided or even tossed around at this point because the survey is still out.
Okay, it's now 3 o'clock. We do have some additional questions. So Diane, Vonda, do you want to continue to take questions, or do you want to compile these and include them in the written up Q&A that's posted with the webinar?
We can take the last, we're seeing 3 questions.
Yep.
We can take those and then we'll stop.
Okay. In a combined middle-high school with soda water vending machines, how do we keep the middle schoolers from using the machines? Must we?
We'll check on that. We've thought about that a little bit before, and you know, one way you could do it would be to go with what all grade levels are allowed to have, but we will check into that some more for you.
Okay. Can concession stands sell deep-fried foods at a sporting event? Is that a decision for the district wellness committee?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but if they don't place any restrictions on that at the local level, and that sporting event is in the evening, then they can sell whatever they would like.
Okay. And finally, who contacts PDE for fundraising exemptions?
I think, as Vonda explained, there will most probably be a number of fundraiser exemptions granted, and then it's really up to the local level to decide how they're distributed through their buildings.
Okay, thank you. It looks like you addressed all of the questions that came in the chat box. Thanks for joining us today. As we mentioned, this webinar audio will be posted in about a week or so, along with a Q&A and slides and handouts in handout format. If you feel the need to listen to this webinar again live, it's being offered twice more this week on Wednesday and Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. We will leave the chat box open for a little while longer, so if you still have questions that you didn't